The awakening signal. The UES Vigilance drifted silently through the darkness of the Kuiper Belt, its sensors sweeping the void. Commander Elena Vega stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing nothing but ice, rock, and the eternal emptiness of space. 6 months into their patrol mission, and the crew had settled into the monotonous routine of deep space surveillance. "Commander, I'm picking up something unusual," called out Lieutenant Keller, the ship's communications specialist. His voice carried a note of confusion that immediately caught Vega's attention. "Define unusual, Lieutenant," she replied, moving to his station. Keller's fingers danced across his console. "It's a signal, ma'am. Weak but consistent. Frequency pattern unlike anything in our database." Vega studied the waveform on his screen. The signal pulsed with mathematical precision, too ordered to be natural. "Origin. That's the strange part," Keller said. "It's coming from PKO 9873. He indicated a small dwarf planet on the star chart. "There's nothing out there," Vega said. "No outposts, no mining operations, nothing. Nevertheless, that's where it's coming from, and it's getting stronger." Vega made her decision quickly. "Alter course. Let's take a closer look." The Vigilance changed trajectory, its engines pushing it toward the distant planetoid. As they approached, the signal grew stronger, its pattern more complex. Something about it nagged at Vega's subconscious, a half-remembered warning from her advanced tactical training. "Lieutenant, run that signal through all military encryption protocols, including the archived ones." Keller looked surprised but complied. "That'll take time, ma'am. Some of those archives haven't been accessed in decades." "Do it anyway." Hours later, as the Vigilance established orbit around the barren world, Keller's console lit up with urgent alerts. "Commander, the signal, it's accessing our systems." Vega spun toward him. "Shut down communications." "I can't. It's bypassing our firewalls. Accessing military databases." Keller's voice rose in panic. "It's like it has all our encryption keys." Across the ship, systems began to malfunction. Navigation flickered, life support momentarily faltered, and the main computer displayed strange sequences of data. "What is it accessing?" Vega demanded. "Military archives, specifically. Project Resurgence." Vega felt her blood run cold. Project Resurgence was classified beyond top secret. A contingency plan developed during humanity's darkest hour, the Unification War. She'd only heard whispers about it during her academy days. "That's impossible. Those files are buried in the most secure vaults on Earth." An alert sounded from the sensor station. "Commander, we're detecting energy signatures, multiple sources, activating across the system." The tactical display updated, showing sudden power surges at various points throughout the solar system. Abandoned military installations, decommissioned shipyards, and orbital platforms long thought defunct. "What's happening?" she whispered. "Ma'am," Keller said, his voice suddenly calm with the strange serenity of absolute terror. "The signal. It's a key. It's waking something up." Before Vega could respond, the ship's AI announced, "Priority transmission from Earth Defense Command. All vessels return to Earth immediately. First contact scenario in progress. This is not a drill." The main screen activated, showing multiple unidentified vessels entering the solar system near Neptune's orbit. Massive ships, unlike any human design, moving with ominous purpose toward the inner planets. "Get me Admiral Chen," Vega ordered. When the Admiral's face appeared on screen, Vega knew immediately that the situation was dire. Chen's normally composed features were tight with tension. "Commander Vega, where are you?" "Kuiper Belt, ma'am. We've detected a signal that's accessing classified military archives." Chen's expression darkened further. "Return to Earth immediately. We're facing an invasion force. They call themselves the Vorax. First contact was unsuccessful. They've destroyed our outposts on Titan and are moving inward. The signal, Admiral, It's activating old systems, military installations from the Unification War. For a moment, Chen was silent. That's not possible. Unless, her eyes widened with sudden understanding. The contingency. It was designed to activate automatically if Earth faced an extinction-level threat. What contingency? Project Resurgence, our insurance policy, weapons and ships deemed too dangerous for use. We mothballed them, scattered them throughout the system. A new alert sounded, another transmission, this one originating from Mars. The screen split to show a gaunt, elderly man in a simple gray uniform with no insignia. His face was deeply lined, his eyes sharp with intelligence. This is Director Harlow of Mars Security Archive. The Resurgence Protocol has been initiated. Authorization codes detected and verified. Fleet activation sequence commencing. Harlow. Chen said, those ships were decommissioned for a reason. And now they're our only hope, Admiral. Harlow's voice was like gravel. The signal isn't from the Vorax. It's from someone else. Someone who knew they were coming. Someone who knew about the contingency. Vega watched as new data flooded the tactical display. Locations lighting up across the system. Ancient weapon systems coming online. And forgotten warships stirring from their long slumber. Commander Vega, Chen said, your new orders are to proceed to coordinates being transmitted to you now. You'll rendezvous with the first of the Resurgence vessels. What exactly are these ships, Admiral? Chen's answer was interrupted by planetary defense alarms. The Vorax fleet had reached Mars orbit and was engaging Earth's defensive forces. Explosions bloomed silently in the blackness of space. They're what we built when we thought we were going to lose the Unification War, Chen said grimly. Ships with technologies we banned afterward. Ships crewed by people who volunteered for experimental neural integration. The kind of weapons you create when survival is the only moral imperative left. The transmission cut off as Earth's communications network came under attack. Vega stood frozen for a moment, processing the implications. Set course for the transmitted coordinates, she finally ordered. Maximum speed. As the Vigilance accelerated away from the dwarf planet, Vega studied the tactical display showing the Vorax fleet advancing inexorably toward Earth. Humanity's conventional forces were being systematically destroyed. The planet's orbital defenses wouldn't hold for long. Their only hope lay in whatever was awakening in the darkness, the forgotten weapons of a war that had nearly destroyed humanity from within. 3 days later, the Vigilance approached a massive asteroid that had been hollowed out and converted into a hidden shipyard. As they drew closer, enormous bay doors creaked open for the first time in decades, and a ship emerged from the darkness. Vega stared in awe at the vessel on the view screen. Nearly 3 kilometers long, its hull was midnight black, absorbing rather than reflecting light. Its shape defied conventional naval architecture, asymmetrical, with sections that seemed to move independently, reconfiguring themselves as they watched. "What is that?" Lieutenant Keller whispered. Before anyone could answer, a transmission reached them, originating from the strange vessel. "UES Vigilance. This is the Resurgence vessel Nemesis. Request permission to come aboard." There's much to discuss, and time is short. Hours later, Vega sat in her ready room, facing the Nemesis's commander, if that term even applied. The woman who called herself Director Ilara Pierce had more metal than flesh visible, with neural interfaces embedded along her temples and spine. Her eyes were entirely artificial, glowing faintly with an inner light. The signal was sent by the Sentinels, Pierce explained, her voice carrying a subtle electronic undertone. They've been monitoring the Vorax for centuries, warning civilizations of their approach. "Who are the Sentinels?" Vega asked. "Survivors. The Vorax destroyed their homeworld eons ago. The remnants became a nomadic race, dedicated to preventing the same fate befalling others." Pierce's artificial eyes flickered. "The Sentinels discovered Earth 50 years ago during the Unification War. They observed our conflict, saw what we were capable of creating when pushed to the brink." "The Resurgence fleet." Pierce nodded. Ships integrated with their crews. Weapons that blur the line between technology and biology. Capabilities that frighten even those who created them. And you've been, what? Sleeping all this time. Not sleeping. Waiting. The neural integration is permanent. We exist in a state of suspended animation until needed. Pierce's expression remained unnervingly still. We were the volunteers, the ones who believed so deeply in Earth's survival that we sacrifice our humanity to ensure it. The ship shuddered as the long-range sensors detected new threats. The Vorax had broken through Mars' defenses and were accelerating toward Earth. "We need to go," Pierce said, rising. "The rest of the fleet is awakening. But we need a commander, someone untainted by the integration, someone who can think like them." She fixed her glowing eyes on Vega. "Someone like you." Vega felt the weight of billions of lives settling on her shoulders. "I don't know how to command ships like yours." "You don't need to. We need someone to command us. The vessels are part of us now." Pierce extended a hand that was more machine than flesh. "The question is, are you willing to lead monsters to save humanity?" Vega hesitated only briefly before taking the offered hand. "If that's what it takes." As alarms blared throughout the vigilance, signaling the approach of Vorax scout ships, Vega made her decision. "Prepare for immediate departure. We're joining the Resurgence Fleet." The Resurgence Fleet, the situation room beneath Earth Defense Headquarters, was designed to withstand direct nuclear strikes. Today, it served as humanity's last command center, as the Vorax systematically dismantled Earth's orbital defenses. Admiral Chen stood before the tactical display, watching as another defensive platform went dark. Titan base destroyed. Lunar defense grid at 30% capacity. Mars colony has gone silent, reported a grim-faced officer. "Where are our remaining ships?" Chen demanded. "The 5th and 7th fleets are engaging near Eurava. The home fleet is in defensive formation around Earth. Casualties are severe." The doors slid open and a security team entered, escorting a tall man with silver hair and a permanent scowl. Despite wearing civilian clothes, he carried himself with unmistakable military bearing. "Admiral Marcus Kane," Chen said, her voice a mixture of relief and apprehension. "Thank you for coming." Kane surveyed the tactical display without greeting. "You're losing." "Yes," Chen admitted. "Conventional tactics have proven ineffective against their technology." Kane's eyes narrowed. "So you woke me up. After 10 years of forced retirement, after the tribunals and the disgrace, suddenly my expertise is valuable again." "The Resurgence Protocol has been activated," Chen said quietly. Kane's composure faltered momentarily. "That's impossible. Those ships were decommissioned, their crews were preserved, and now they're awakening across the system." Kane stared at her. "You need someone who understands them, someone who helped design them." "Yes, someone willing to cross lines that others won't." Chen met his gaze steadily. "Yes." A ghost of a smile touched Kane's lips. "Well then, let's see what my old friends have been up to." Across the solar system, the Resurgence Fleet was gathering. Ships emerged from hidden bases on lifeless moons, from the clouds of gas giants, from the shadows of desolate asteroids. Vessels with names like Nemesis, Retribution, and Reckoning, each housing crews more machine than human, preserved for this moment of existential threat. Commander Vega stood on the bridge of the Nemesis, watching as the fleet assembled at the rendezvous point in the asteroid belt. 17 ships in total, each unique in design but united in purpose. Together, they represented firepower exceeding Earth's entire military. "Director Pierce, status report," she ordered. Pierce, interfaced directly with the ship's systems through neural linkages, responded immediately. "All vessels report ready. Weapons systems online. The Vorax fleet has broken through the Jupiter defensive line and will reach Earth in approximately 6 hours. And our special capabilities." Pierce's artificial eyes pulsed. "Functional. Though I must caution you, these systems were banned for good reason. A new transmission cut through their conversation. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the main view screen. Commander Vega, the Resurgence fleet is now under the tactical command of Admiral Marcus Kane. He's being brought up to speed and will contact you shortly. Vega recognized the name immediately. Kane was a brilliant but controversial figure, the architect of victories during the Unification War, later court-martialed for deploying unauthorized experimental weapons that had resulted in civilian casualties. Understood, Admiral. When Kane's face appeared on the screen minutes later, Vega was struck by the intensity in his eyes, the look of a man granted unexpected redemption. Commander Vega, I understand you've been coordinating with the Resurgence vessels. Yes, sir. We're assembled and awaiting orders. Kane studied something off-screen. The Vorax pattern is predictable. They're following standard conquest methodology. Eliminate military assets, then ground-based infrastructure. They don't expect resistance at this point. Their technology outclasses ours, Admiral. Kane smiled thinly. Conventional technology, yes, but the Resurgence fleet operates on different principles. Director Pierce, is the neural network established between vessels? Pierce nodded. Yes, Admiral. All ships are linked. Good. Deploy phase shift protocols. Configure for dispersed assault pattern Theta 9. Pierce's expression remained neutral, but something like respect flickered in her artificial eyes. As you wish, Admiral. The Nemesis shuddered as its hull began to transform, sections sliding and reforming. Around them, the other Resurgence vessels underwent similar metamorphoses, their structures becoming more organic, less recognizable as ships. What's happening? Vega asked. The vessels are reconfiguring for combat, Kane explained. They're not traditional ships, Commander. They're adaptive weapons platforms. As Kane outlined his strategy, Vega realized why he had been both feared and respected. His plan violated every conventional tactical doctrine, exploiting capabilities the Resurgence fleet possessed that no sane military would normally deploy. 6 hours later, as the Vorax fleet approached Earth, they encountered no resistance. The planet's remaining defenses had fallen silent, its military apparently defeated. The massive alien vessels moved into position to begin their final assault. That's when the Resurgence fleet struck. The Nemesis and 3 other vessels materialized inside the Vorax formation, having used their phase shift technology to bypass normal space. Before the aliens could respond, the human ships unleashed weapons that defied physics, gravity lenses that crushed Vorax vessels from within, energy fields that selectively disabled organic components while leaving technology intact, nanite swarms that consumed hull material and repurposed it into attack drones. Meanwhile, Kane himself led the remaining vessels in a frontal assault that seemed suicidal until they demonstrated their true capabilities. As Vorax weapons struck them, the Resurgent ships absorbed the energy, their semi-living hulls adapting to the attacks and developing resistances in real time. On the Nemesis's bridge, Vega watched in awe and horror as Pierce and her crew interfaced directly with the ship, their consciousness spreading through its systems, guiding its transformations with inhuman precision. The Vorax flagship is altering course, Pierce reported. They appear to be initiating their retreat protocol. Kane's voice came over the comm. Nemesis, retribution, reckoning, pursue and engage. Do not allow them to escape with data on our capabilities. The 3 largest Resurgence vessels broke formation, accelerating after the fleeing Vorax command ship. As they closed the distance, a new signal reached them, not from Earth, not from the Vorax, but from the edge of the system. Incoming transmission, Pierce announced. Unknown origin, but the encryption matches the original activation signal. A figure appeared on the view screen, humanoid but clearly alien, with translucent skin revealing a complex circulatory system beneath. Its eyes were enormous, entirely black. People of Earth, it said, its voice melodic despite the gravity of its words. I am emissary Theris of the Sentinel Conclave. We sent the awakening signal when we detected the Vorax approach. Why help us? Kane demanded, his face appearing on a secondary screen. Because we have watched you. During your unification war, we observed your capacity for both terrible destruction and remarkable innovation. The Resurgence fleet represents technologies that parallel our own development. The integration of biological and mechanical systems into adaptive war machines. Theris gestured, and the display changed to show the Vorax retreat. The Vorax consume worlds. They have destroyed thousands of civilizations. You are the first to drive them back in centuries. At what cost? Vega asked quietly, looking at Pierce and her crew. More machine than human, sacrificed on the altar of survival. Theris seemed to understand her concern. There is much we can teach you, ways to balance advancement with humanity. But first, the immediate threat must be eliminated. Kane's expression hardened. Agreed. Nemesis, execute final approach. Prepare the phase resonance cannon. Pierce nodded, and the ship shuddered as its entire structure reconfigured, forming a massive weapon that drew power from the vessel's living core. Target locked, she reported. Firing. A beam of concentrated energy, not light, not matter, but something between, erupted from the Nemesis, striking the Vorax flagship. The alien vessel didn't explode. Instead, it simply ceased to exist, along with the surrounding space, collapsing into a temporary singularity that winked out of existence moments later. Silence fell across the communication channels. Finally, Chen's voice came through, shaking slightly. Admiral Kane, Commander Vega, the remaining Vorax vessels are retreating at maximum speed. Earth is secure. As the adrenaline of battle faded, Vega looked around at the bridge crew of the Nemesis, the human-machine hybrids who had sacrificed their humanity decades ago for this moment. They had saved Earth, but at what cost to themselves? What happens now? She asked Pierce. The director's artificial eyes seemed to soften slightly. Now we must decide who we are, Commander. Weapons to be feared and locked away again, or the vanguard of a new understanding between humanity and technology. Kane's voice interrupted their conversation. That decision won't be made today. For now, the fleet will remain activated. The Vorax will return, and others like them. Humanity needs its defenders. As the Resurgence fleet regrouped in Earth orbit, Vega watched the homeworld turning below them, blue and green and beautiful, unaware of how close it had come to destruction, unaware of the price paid by those who now guarded it. The Sentinel ship approached, Theris's voice coming through once more. Your species stands at a crossroads. You have created things of great power and terrible beauty. The path ahead will determine whether you master these creations or are mastered by them. Vega thought of Pierce and her crew, of the ships that were more alive than machine, of Kane and his willingness to cross lines others wouldn't. They had saved humanity today. But the greater challenge lay ahead, finding their place in a universe suddenly much larger and more dangerous than they had imagined. We choose our own path, she said finally. That's what makes us human. As the first light of dawn broke over Earth's horizon, the Resurgence fleet held position. Humanity's darkest creations becoming its brightest hope, awakened by a signal from the stars to defend not just their world, but their future among them.